So I'm gonna be talking about all kinds of stuff and how it's all really interconnected. Um, Talking about demon time, because that's what I've been thinking about today. Demon time is literally the same thing as like karma. Like when you're in a karmic cycle, think of it like it's something circling you. Like you could think of like a hawk circling you when you are in a karmic cycle. And you notice how like karmic cycles kind of like put you in situations where you are at like a rock bottom phase, and then you're going up and then peaking and going down. Like you're out of control of your own situation because it's being controlled by whatever karmic thing you're involved in. So and when you are on what they call demon time, it's like you have a deadline. Like you don't have free will. Like I'm losing my train of thought because I'm staring at this airplane. Hold on. See, it's even hard for me to like talk about this stuff without looking at my notes, because I lose my train of thought because I'm not really in this kind of shit anymore. So it's I had these realizations a while ago. A lot of people, so like think of how humans are very primal creatures. Humans are driven by things like survival and sex and fearing competitors and stuff. And you think of what all these things are not, which is love and like things like universal brotherhood and sisterhood, like peace, harmony, all that shit. The opposite of that is like very primal, kill or be killed, eat or be eaten kind of stuff. That's like you're not seeing things from like your oversoul kind of perspective. You are in some kind of like survival trance. So when I think about sexuality is a very primal kind of thing. You hear like people talk about how when you have a Kundalini awakening, your sex drive goes down actually, even though like you're on fire in like your root chakra. I feel like since like I feel like Kundalini stuff, I haven't even like researched this stuff a lot. This is all just intuitive. Kundalini is connected with love, higher vibrations, higher forms of spirituality. I don't think you could have a Kundalini awakening if you're like on some like bullshit, like some low level kind of shit. I think of how people get trapped in the karmic cycles. If you do something, because I feel like a lot of us are born into this kind of low level way of living, and then as we get older we ascend and we have a lot of chances to become become higher than we were before, and not just live our lives in just this like fight or flight, like caveman mode. A lot of people, everyone has experienced shit where they do something and then they quickly realize that they had done something immoral, or they done something that is what, if you would see it from a higher perspective, you'd think it's fucked up. A lot of people do things like sexual things. They fight the wrong person. They take advantage of people weaker than them, whatever it is. And then if you do it once, it's a mistake. If you do something twice with the knowledge of what you have done, you're automatically going to feel some kind of shame, some kind of like guilt about it. And that is what keeps you bound to the karmic cycle, and you can't grow out of it. When you are ashamed of your actions, you're going to have some kind of internal war within yourself. Again, tie this like war with like lower consciousness, like kill or be killed, primal like survival shit. You'll be at war with your own conscience. You'll be driven by shame, and then you're more likely to do the same thing over and over again. So you think about karma. A lot of people associate karma with punishment. If you're doing the same thing over and over again because you're at war with your higher and lower natures, karma starts to it becomes like this whirlwind frequency around you. It can seem like hawks circling you, like you're being watched. And then I want to talk about ego and how people will be fully aware of karmic cycles that they are in, but their ego is so rigid. It gets so rigid, and it's like trying to justify its lower nature and like keeping the person from growing. And then when we think of like when karma actually hits you, usually karma, like you'll get signs when it's time to turn something around. You will get signs, you'll know. But if your ego is so arrogant that it wants to live in denial and it wants to put you in some kind of like stubborn, rigid self-identity or something, if you do not bend and you do not grow and change, then you're going to break. And so I made a video earlier that talks about how it talks about ego deaths. If you have gotten so rigid and so fixed in a karmic cycle, and all this stuff I've just talked about kind of goes, it's all the stuff that's like what's going on in these karmic cycles, then you experience a form of death, or like a lot of people associate death with punishment, endings, like losing. You face karma just as severe as the kind of rigidity or resistance to your true nature as necessary. So yes, you do see some people who are in karmic cycles so bad, they're in such a heavy amount of competition with like the divine order. They're in such resistance to the truth. They're so arrogant that they refuse to accept growth, and they're so afraid of change that they want to stay stagnant. You do see a lot of people manifest like death. You see people die all of a sudden. A lot of times you see people die, you didn't expect it. A lot of this goes into how like shame is what keeps people in karmic cycles. When you are ashamed of something, you're obviously going to keep it secret. People aren't going to know what you're going through, and then all of a sudden one day like everyone hears it, like you died, or like you got some kind of like life-changing illness, or like some random catastrophe happened to you. It's because you were in resistance to exiting a karmic cycle. Fear is also something that keeps people trapped in karmic cycles. They think that if they made a mistake about something, then they start fearing punishment, all kinds of shit. You get the idea. You can literally take yourself out of karma. Like, people assume that if you fucked up, then you're automatically going to face some kind of like serious punishment or something, or it's going to come back and bite you in the ass. That would be if you were continuing to be in the cycle. If you have seen the signs and you like ask to be freed of your denial and your shame, you'll literally see what you need to do to change and grow. And then karma that would have hit you like is like, I don't know, say you had say you had karma of like, it doesn't matter if your karma was, if you were going to continue to be in the karmic cycle and it would have otherwise resulted in you like getting hit by a fucking bus. If you have dissolved your ego, taken yourself out of karma, and taken yourself out of all these competitions you were involved in, all this like animosity, hate cycles, whatever it is, what would have been like karma that would be the equivalent of like you getting hit by a bus, it will like the cycle, the circling kind of nature of karma, it will get smaller and weaker. Remember that Saturn is a planet that's associated with karma. If you think about Saturn's rings, that's kind of what I think of karma as being like. Imagine, I think of it as like, I'm pretty sure Saturn's rings are getting smaller and weaker anyway. If you have taken yourself out of a karmic cycle and kind of like risen your level of awareness, and you're no longer operating on your like your lower hindbrain reptile kind of nature. Also remember that Saturn in sign of Capricorn rules over reptiles and crocodiles. That's the lowest form of Capricorn, which is like the sign associated with like karma itself. The cycle that you were in that would once result in massive punishment, it gets smaller and weaker, and then gradually you won't be a match for the kind of karma you would have received if you were still in your lower nature. So like what would be the equivalent of a bus hitting you, well, like it would be like you just like running over a pothole now.